some witnesses.
All right, please.
Yeah, welcome back. Happy New Year.
Tracy,
Yes.
how long do you think you have this crossing?
Gabby?
Yes.
Oh, I'm almost done.
Okay.
The guest bathroom that we use
Chocolate.
is in his.
Did you tell her?
I told him.
Yeah, she was a secret sacred family.
Actually, I've seen him overseas with a meeting. Really exciting last week. I got to be a doctor today.
Oh, why?
Got to go to the rest of him.
Did you?
Oh, I forgot that I was up.
Yeah, this is because I could be a cop again.
Yeah.
Chased him all over town.
No, I wasn't. I mean, I've got a couple questions. If I don't know if you guys. I've got 14 of you. That you have it. If there's anything else.
Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and all counsel. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. All right. Ms. Abater, you are still under oath. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. You may continue with cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy New Year.
Make sure this is. Here are the emails. For what?
Good morning, Tracy. There were few people that were very excited, and there were some people that were worried about we had the temple exposed to the media. Mm-hmm. I don't know the origin. How did it start? I vaguely, yeah. Yes. 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 Correct. Yes.
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
I don't recall exactly what, but it was different and unique to them. Yes. I can recall, Tracy, it's been 4 years. If I've got that, yes. At the moment, yes. 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 Correct. Yes, for the new members and the people that they don't know what's the temple about. That this is not a place for you and you'd like to know more about it, I believe refer to the website. No.
Objection calls for speculation.
Overrule. Overrule.
They didn't, well, it was for them to notify us when there was no donation left. But if they have or they didn't, it was, they will let us know so that when we cross it out from the book. But they will not, oh, let me go see if there's any money there. No. They will know, yes.
One at a time, please.
So they, I guess what I was trying to get at is the amount of money could have been less than the requested amount. Did you ever observe someone receiving or hear about someone receiving less than the requested amount, like a smaller amount?
I don't recall, but there's proof that there was few times, many times that they had left less than the requested amount.
And once in a while, someone might say, oh my gosh, someone just gave me an extra amount of money. Did you ever hear that happen?
A few times, I believe so.
And then once in a while, people would say, oh my gosh, my speaker left nothing, which was not a good energy exchange. It left the person feeling disappointed or let down. Did you ever discuss with seekers on the phone, in the internet, or in the building that they could, for a certain sum of money, have a sexual experience?
No.
In your opinion, was part of the downfall of the temple the vibration lowering? We can talk about frequency. The frequency vibration went lower
Mm-hmm.
right before the rain.
Before when?
Right before all this happened, there was, we had people in the building that needed so much help that they were consuming a lot of our energy and time. We had a few people who were super, super unstable and
Right.
disruptive, and we might say high drama,
Yes.
something like that. So the staff was struggling with not enough flow to pay the bills, and simultaneously we had in the building a number of people who might otherwise be catastrophized in society. They didn't necessarily have a place to sleep.
Yes.
In your opinion, was the temple trying to take care of people at that level part of what caused us to have a vibration of being mixed, that it wasn't, we weren't floating as high as our potential would allow because we were trying to help so many people. It used up our resources.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have an exhibit here, Exhibit 32, which has already been entered into evidence by the state. And
All right.
I wanted to know if I could approach the witness.
You may.
Tracy, it has not been entered into evidence.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry. I'd like to know.
32 has not been admitted.
I apologize.
Your Honor, I have Exhibit 32, which I would like to show the witness.
Are you offering it in evidence?
Yes, Your Honor,
Is there any objection?
No objection.
All right, 32 is admitted. Now you may proceed. You may.
No.
Objection, Your Honor.
Approach, please. Yes. What is your objection?
Once again, Ms. Lees is putting forth that being part of the church is a defense, which this court, at least at this point, has precluded as a defense. She's insinuating that if she thought it was church, she shouldn't have been charged with anything, and that's inappropriate. I'd ask that you strike that from there.
All right. Ms. Lees?
Your Honor, everyone in the temple was aware that we had been called prostitutes before, but we really genuinely believed that we were working with local government officials. I have many of them, emails I'm going to produce when it's my turn, that we thought we were meeting all the government officials with their concerns, that they were believing us. And if she believed it too, she should have a chance to say that. And yes, it is a matter of law whether we're going to have any constitutional protections. But, you know,
I think it's fair game for her to ask, did you think that you could be prosecuted or be charged with what you're doing? That's a fair question, but she can't insinuate that there was some defense because they believe they were a church.
All right. Ms. Sustain the objection. You may rephrase.
Yes. No. I cannot answer that.
Objection, Your Honor. Yeah, withdraw.
All right. But you may proceed. He withdrew his objection.
Plus 84%. So those are some pretty stiff prison time, money that you might have to come up with. When this all happened to the temple and the school, did you have any resources whatsoever to sort of say, you know, I don't want to take these charges. I want to fight back. I want to take stand. Did you have any resources to really dig in and take stand?
No.
I know that I have a lot of family in the temple, and you actually have a little family in the temple. And I do know that your sister was just about to practice. We've already seen a picture of her on an ad. She was on the website, and we know that she was charged at one time. And then the charges were dropped shortly after I think you took a plea bargain.
Objection, misstates facts.
Restate your question.
Okay. Was there any consideration given by the state
No. No. There was, my sister wasn't supposed to be part of the indictment. And when they put her in, it was just a mistake, and the judge did not release the name on time. But in the second one, they made the correct mistake, so that she wasn't part of the indictment. Yeah, but she was, she mainly did the cleaning. She never practiced. Yes. She wasn't even in training or anything.
Objection, she's testifying, Your Honor.
Yes.
There was no threat of deportation.
No.
I apologize. I was temporary. So if there is something that you recall about the mission, the mindset of the temple, what you thought we were doing at the temple, do you agree that we were empowering and healing the women to the best of our ability?
I think so.
Our resources were stretched very thin.
There was a lot of back and forth, clarity, and communication. So I think that was also what caused to fail, because you were more at going forward with the temple, while the temple needed to have a solid foundation.
Teaching at the temple. So isn't it true that I was relying on you and Janet to sort of take over in some of the places I might have otherwise, like the healing, the counseling, the teaching? I mean, you and Janet were flowing into those roles. Is that correct? Like you were counseling the women and had a problem?
I always counsel them, I always help them. But I don't think I was part of that, because you had your high priestess that you designated to do that for your members.
Do you recall that my cell phone number was published and all the practitioners could call me at any time?
Oh, I didn't know.
In dealing with the healing of the body, and you are a trained healer, and including there, is there a lot of dis-ease, shame, discomfort just around the body?
Yes.
In our culture.
In everyone's, yes.
And the energy that the men have, would you agree that they don't get much training with what to do with that energy in our culture?
Correct.
So,
Yes.
All right, redirect.
So let's be clear. What do you feel like the world needs?
There's we have issues of abandonment, and that's the sacral chakra. That's the sexual energy. We don't feel that we're stable, that we don't belong in this planet, and for the girls were more capable to cry than the guys. So there's a lot of stuck emotions in the body that we had to learn to let it out, to understand the energy centers, and be able to let go a lot of traumas. Once we raise little, we get domesticated to only do things one way when we know there's more to the body, there's more to life, there's more to the soul. And that was, even though we carry a simple life, we don't live a simple life. And that's what the world needs, to be able to understand ourselves as a complete being instead of just the mental.
When you started the film, you testified that you were not in a great place financially.
Correct.
Tough times. And I think you testified that you were making, as a gatekeeper, $100 a day.
Mm-hmm.
You knew that you could make a lot more money in this session.
Yes.
Why?
Because I didn't want to, because we had to provide a release. And I wasn't comfortable in doing that.
You feel like the world needs a place where a man goes, gets released, and leaves $204 because the world needs that.
No, because I just release an energy that they don't know how to understand it. Just having a release is a powerful energy, but you're just wasting, like wasting your own energy or life.
Knowing that a release, a sexual release, was part of what happened in the sessions, where did you learn that initially?
It was in the training.
That's right.
Yes.
This is an email that you didn't end up showing her. Gave it to her.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I'm just, I was saying sorry. Oh, that's great. That is what we do.
Yeah, the parties have a stipulation to Exhibit 185.
Is that correct, Ms. Elise? No objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
185 is admitted.
Publisher.
You may.
You looked at some various emails between you and her as we were just getting started.
Yes.
I'm going to show you specifically page 2. This is an email from Tracy in which she indicates since the temple is all about the integration of the root chakra, as most healers feel need to be out of the energy teachings, and that's kind of what you were comfortable with from your training suite opera.
Correct.
When you need to know that we facilitate a man grounding his energy in the physical plane of existence, we do this through touch and by using our magnetic matrix as women. Orgasm accomplished with your hands is the fairly normal experience
would need to be amenable to this concept. Does that kind of align with that you knew that was the expectation for the goddesses or for the practitioner?
Yes.
And just so we're clear, this was an email that you received in March of 2010 from Tracy, correct?
Right.
Tracy asked you a number of questions about kind of a hypothetical, how a phone conversation would go with the speaker. And would that be an often frequent occurrence where a speaker would call and talk, ask for sexually explicit things? That happen often?
I don't recall that happen often, but I do recall happen
In
numerous times.
those situations, you would refer them to the website.
Correct.
Did you ever hang up on a speaker?
I might have done it.
But even if they did talk about sex or say, hey, can I get a specific sexual act, you would give them, you would say you wouldn't do it, and then you would refer them to the website, correct?
Yes.
Given your background at Sweetheart, and frankly your entire background of how you grew up, did you know what exactly, beyond the email, but what exactly was going on in the sessions?
No. I kind of imagined something, but because of her releasing of the energy, I needed the money, stay there, answer the phones, and I was the gatekeeper.
Comfortable doing, you weren't comfortable going to that next level.
Correct.
Fair to say that you were in some ways naive about what was going on inside the chambers?
Yes.
How?
I grew up in a very
Overruled.
I grew up in a very conservative way. And I was abused by someone when I was little and even growing up. So by looking at her website, by looking into what they could do, for me was to be able to help myself. And even then, talking to the girls, I tried to be more understanding of who I was. And until this point, I still haven't. That's why I'm so angry at Tracy. Because even though I was there for so long, she never figured out what had happened to me. That's why I explained to her there are many girls that are wounded, that are in trouble. And they help to help that specific trauma. It wasn't there. That's why my name, when it comes to sex and sexuality, I'd rather stay there than to remember what happened.
Marcel, is it fair to say that there was, at least in some of the things that the temple represented, there was the promise of health,
Yes,
the hope of health. But your experience was that often didn't happen.
it wasn't, the help was not there. Just talking about it and trying to teach something when there's no actually results. You know, I'm 38 years old and it still has that issue. Okay.
Often, Tracy, confronted Tracy, which you saw from all the practitioners about these oftentimes broken women. What was your response?
They're going to be taking classes. There's just going to be the high priestess helping them. That the help was there.
Oftentimes help these women where there wasn't help provided.
I always help them whenever I can. I was just there for them. Because sometimes you just need someone who's to listen and to be there when you're pain. But the girls were so lost on who they were. They were lost as a mother because they already had children. They don't know how to take care of their own children. So the temple was a way for them to get better. But the resources were not solid.
At least the temple provided the potential of helping women get better, but the resources weren't there.
They were not there. They were there as a class, they were there as a therapist, but the results were not happening because the connection was not taking place.
There was not coordination between everything that was going on. From what you saw 18 months later, was Tracy's focus on helping each of these broken women, or was her focus elsewhere?
It was in a church and to take this more open, but it wasn't. She left that to Janet and the other priestess to take care of the girls, but there was no help.
Focus on the church and making it open. What do you mean?
She wanted to go public, so that way they see more seekers.
So, at least from what you saw, the focus was on growing the temple. And how could you, what was the method for growing the temple? How could the temple expand beyond Phoenix to other cities? How did that happen?
She wanted to have a reality show, to have recorded and to have it on the news. That way people will know more about the temple.
There's the temple will only grow if more money is coming in.
Yes.
A moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Sure, okay.
So we've heard this, maybe one other witness, but I think you said that there was a reality show that was going to happen, is that right? Or you thought it was going to happen?
That's what Tracy was planning, to have a reality show with Panda and the other members that she had at her group to create that.
An idea that was supported by all of the people at the temple, this reality show?
No. Because they felt that the temple was not ready for that, and they want to keep everything private and sacred.
You agreed to that. You signed that paper.
Yes.
And I think the question specifically was, were you shocked when you were arrested?
I was.
you were shocked in part that Tracy had sold this idea that we were safe from law enforcement?
Yes, because everyone, oh, it was under the assumption it was a church.
Everyone, practitioners, gatekeepers, people who went, at least who worked at the temple, thought this was a church, and because Tracy had said, because it's a church, it's protected, you thought you couldn't be arrested. Is that right?
I believe so.
Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes.
Of Tracy to make you feel safe.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned that there were, in the 18 months that you were at the temple's gatekeeper, I think we said before the break, you scheduled hundreds, maybe even 1,000 sessions in that 5 days.
I think so. I think so. It's been a while. Yes.
I think what you justified, as far as your personal experience, that maybe three to 5 times out of those hundreds, maybe 1,000, where someone actually didn't need money. Is that right?
Yes.
You've also, and when that didn't happen, although there wasn't a specific book you were required to sign in to say, hey, this person didn't leave, correct?
I wasn't me doing that.
That didn't exist as far as you knew?
No, I didn't know that they kept that on the back.
What we had shown before the break,
The black
where there
book.
was the shady secrets, you were not aware of that.
No.
Now, you were aware, though, that in the calendar, the large calendar that you keep behind your desk, though, that there'd be some notation that somebody didn't need money. Is that right?
Right.
Now, is it fair to say many, if not most of the seekers that came in gave, at least you understood them to be giving a false name?
Yes.
Oftentimes, the contact number, the phone number, other information, that may be made up as well. Is that right? So if a guy doesn't leave money, other than remembering his face, it would be hard to make sure that he doesn't come back. Is that right?
Right.
You testified before the break that as far as Exhibit 54, and this was the book of all the
Practitioners.
Would it be that book would almost exclusively be used for people who just came in off the street?
For people that came in, yes.
Who didn't have an appointment maybe with one of the other practitioners already?
Right.
What was your experience about? Remember when Tracy was showing you this book before the break, and there was some pages that just had pictures and some that had descriptions? You know why there was some with descriptions as well?
I believe the practitioners were supposed to turn in their own descriptions. So some did not.
So when we saw those little explanations, it would be the duty or the responsibility of the practitioner to give that information.
Correct.
What was your experience about when somebody came in off the street to look at the Phoenix Goddess Temple Mystic Six Sisters book, what would who would they choose?
It all depends who was available, and also sometimes they use like someone. But if one of the practitioners, Venus, was available, there they would choose her.
So obviously there were days when someone would come in off the street and maybe they wanted one of the practitioners that was in here, but they wouldn't be in that day, correct?
Correct.
So they'd have to select someone else.
Correct.
On the days that Venus was in, would it be secret as far as selecting Venus?
Venus was pre-booked, but she was available, they would choose her.
In your experience, and again we're looking at Exhibit 54, if Venus was available, then your experience was that whoever came up the street, they would choose her. Is that correct?
Most of the time, yes.
During Tracy's question, she asked you, was there a filter in place? Do you remember her asking that? Something
Yes.
like that. When she asked you filter, what did you take that to mean?
I can explain it. I'm trying to remember. Usually when they call and they ask very aggressive, they will have sexual intercourse with them. We refer them to the website for them to read and go from there.
So if somebody, again, the secret calls up, is like, hey, I want to have sex with Venus, the filter was to refer them to the website.
Correct.
And so if someone then called back, hey, I just called, I looked at the website, can I schedule an appointment with Venus? Would you schedule that appointment?
Yes.
As far as your picture, that was when you guys were talking about, when Tracy was talking about a filter, that was the filter. Refer them to the website. Is that yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In some point during the 18 months you were there, when you started, there was just a one master phone line that you could call into the temple, correct?
I think so.
About how long after you had been there, into the 18 months, did a second line come in for the school of one?
I don't recall when it happened, but I know it was when Wayne was building the classes for the temple.
So, fair to say sometime within maybe the first 6 to 9 months, something like that?
About.
So, for approximately a year, there were 2 phone lines coming into the temple. Is that correct?
Yes.
Were you ever instructed to change how you answered the phone now that there was 2 phone lines coming in?
One would be the school of one.
And the other would be the temple line?
Yes.
Did you still answer the phone, hello, good morning?
For the temple, yes.
So, even after the second phone line was in, if somebody called in to schedule a session, or if somebody called into that number, you would say, hello, good morning, correct? Now, you've testified that you were somewhat naive about what happened in the sessions. Is that fair?
Yes.
But you knew enough to know that there at least were sexual acts that were going on in specific sessions.
Correct.
You would schedule those knowing, you still would schedule appointments knowing that there was, in many cases, some sexual act at work. Is that correct?
Correct.
A couple of questions. Tracy said, asked some questions about when, and your answer was you didn't remember, but when women would go back and see if the money was there, and a couple of occasions that you knew about when money was not left, they would be disappointed.
Right.
For saying that, you answered yes.
Yes.
Why would the women be disappointed?
Because they needed to pay bills or to support their family.
Because at the end of the day, money needed to come in for you to get paid, for the women to pay their bills, for everybody to have a living, correct?
Correct.
When did do you remember when the thesis path started, when that started to happen, that program?
I'm not sure if it began in 2010, like December. I know that was happening one, and I know if one happened before that, like around June or something of 2010. I don't recall because I was still taking classes.
Thesis path, some December 2010 is kind of when you remember something happening. There might have been something in June of 2010.
Correct.
Is that right? But you were still taking, you said classes, were those the sweetheart classes or?
And I believe in the summer I was still taking classes for my polarity program and so have.
Did you take any of the thesis path classes?
Yeah, I took a few because whenever I could escape from the phones, I would go and sit on the classes.
Now, you testified, and as Tracy was going through this book, there were a number of women like Willow, women like Bridget, who I think you described as broken.
Yes,
Tracy talked about women who were homeless, who were brought into the center. Is that correct?
yes,
You've heard stories or information through your circles about women who have been either violently abused by a spouse or a boyfriend or sexually abused. Is that right?
they were through the circles or just one-on-one or start talking.
You did learn there were people at the temple who had suffered.
Yes.
those things. In the position you were in, was it your belief that those women, because of being broken, because of all their issues, shouldn't be doing sessions, at least at that point?
Correct.
Tracy, she had a different opinion of what they should be doing. Is that right?
Yes.
What was that? What was her opinion on what these broken women should be doing?
Well, after they're done with their training, they were ready for sessions.
The training would be a couple of classes, right? It wouldn't be things to help them deal with all their demons, would it?
No.
And that's why you fought with Tracy, isn't it? Or you argued with her.
Yes.
She was driven by the money to grow the temple, correct?
Yes.
And in doing so, did Tracy at least take advantage of these women?
I think so.
All right, looks like we have a couple of additional questions. We have some juror questions from before the break. Ms. Elise, counsel, please approach. All right, juror questions 39 through 49. Any objection? You just...
Based on her experience. State has no objection to questions 44 through 49 with...
Ms. Elise.
State has no objection to questions 44 through 49 with one caveat that we would just ask that where there are separate questions, we'd ask that you ask them separately, if you could do that.
Let me see. So, for example, in 44, where it says the weekly, monthly, and yearly income, ask each of those separately.
Yes.
Not as one question.
Right.
Okay.
And then, for example, in 49, there are, I believe, 3 total questions within there. I just would ask that you, or actually 2, ask those
Yeah, I think
separately.
these two more or less go together.
Yes.
All right, I will do that. I do my best to do that.
Okay, and then,
I'm objecting to the numbers.
Okay, which question is that, Ms. Elise?
Because she's not ready. So it's pure speculation.
All right, so this is for question 41.
Many of these would be better answered by Janet or myself, but she's not going to know the answer.
Then she can tell the jury if that's the case. All right. The objection to 41 is overruled. I'm going to ask.
So that's the movement tomorrow.
And you can, right, and you can follow up.
I didn't see the one that she had objected to.
That's pure.
I'm sorry, what number is that?
Pure speculation.
Number 47.
She answered it with pure speculation. Pure speculation.
I agree. I'm not sustaining objection to 47.
Can we just see how As to 41, this is not, neither question is specifically it's calling for her knowledge, not,
Right,
it's not
I
calling for
will-
hearsay. I'm sorry, I just want to clarify that. Thank you, Judge.
can't, I don't know. Just be able to answer most of them.
All right, but any other objections?
On the, just the answers.
Okay, thank you. All right, the jurors have some questions for you. Hearing this testimony, as well as previous witness practitioner testimony, in one way or another, these women were looking to the temple for help. Why would you allow them to practice without addressing their needs first? I am referring to emotional assistance.
I helped them the best I could.
Why didn't the temple refer them to the agencies local that could better assist them when the temple could not?
That was for Johnny and Tracy. Take that care of that.
After the article was published, what % of seekers stopped calling asking for sessions?
I don't know about the percentage, but there were a lot.
How badly did the article hurt the income of the temple? Example, 20, 50%, etc.
I believe it was like about 70%.
70%? How many regular seekers stopped coming to the temple?
I don't know how many, but there were a lot.
The defense has noted that the temple struggled financially after the February 2011 New Times article was published. Can you confirm or deny this by comparing the average monthly income from March to August 2011 compared to the average monthly income for months prior to February 2011?
I don't have, Johnny kept records of that.
So you don't have that answer?
No.
Since you kept the books, can you please estimate the profit for the temple, meaning income minus expenses, for an average week?
There was no profit.
For an average month?
No profit.
And for an average year?
No profit.
No profits. The prosecution showed 2 example dates of the daily income sheets. Each had around $1,000 as the daily total at the bottom of the sheet. Was this normal daily balance of income?
I don't recall what was the regular balance, but it sounds about right, the 1,000.
Can you please estimate the weekly income at the temple?
I can't. Just don't know. I don't remember, but I know the money that came, it was also the money that went out to pay bills.
Can you estimate the monthly income at the temple?
No.
Can you estimate the yearly income at the temple?
No.
Why was Tamara in the book of practitioners for seekers to ask for?
She wanted to practice.
If she was medicated, what type of seekers did she see?
She did not really see any seekers, but she wanted to practice.
What was her mutuality level?
I don't remember.
To your knowledge, why did Sylvia only drive up from Tucson on the weekends?
Because she was finishing her degree.
If this was by her choice, why should she get paid for travel and gas?
I had no answer to that one.
If the temple was legally operating, why were the phones being answered without the company name?
I don't know.
Why all the secrecy from the wife, girlfriend, significant others?
For my personal opinion, just to avoid conflict.
It has been stated several times that the temple was there to help people. With this in mind, why did the help not begin with the practitioners?
That was my argument.
Since the temple was a 501(c), why did the temple School of One not seek out federal grants to sustain the programs?
I don't know.
Could you explain why you chose not to be a goddess practitioner at the Phoenix Goddess Temple?
Because of what I had expressed earlier about my experience growing up and I wasn't comfortable practicing that modality.
What are some of your main reasons why you stayed at the Phoenix Goddess Temple besides the fact that you needed the money?
I strongly believe in the ancient practices, the energy, the foundations of what we are. And I stayed there because I know there was hope for everyone to get on our feet and to find our own path.
Did you believe in what the Phoenix Goddess Temple was doing?
I strongly believed at the beginning to help. It was there to help. But while I was there, and there was no help available.
All right, follow up from the state.
A moment, Judge. Marcella, as far as the various jury questions about the daily, monthly, yearly financials and the overall financial health, would those questions be better suited for Janet Craven?
Yes,
Okay. Your responsibility would be just to,
one day at a time, and that was my duty.
okay, so you had the money that came in, you'd count it, you would, whatever receipts, you'd plug those in, but as far as the overall picture, that would be Janet, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Now, you said Tamara Brusa wanted to practice, correct?
correct,
And she was in the book of practitioners,
correct.
but she didn't do sessions, is that right?
I don't think she ever, not to my knowledge, I don't think she practiced.
In your experience, that would mean that any seeker who came in, who looked through that book, they never chose Tamara, correct?
Correct.
And just so the jury's clear, and then I think you made it very clear that the reason you stayed at the temple, even with it, is because you wanted to help these women.
I did. I know there's always a way to help one another, and we were getting closer and closer to find a better solution to help ourselves.
As far as, and just so we're clear, the reasons that you didn't actually do sessions or work as a practitioner, that had to do with your upbringing, correct?
Correct.
And also some of the
Past.
things that had happened to you in your past.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And because of those, your upbringing, those things, fair to say that you didn't, knowing what happened in the session, that was not something you wanted to be involved in.
Correct.
Thank you, Marcelo. Nothing further.
Ms. Elise, any follow-up?
Yes.
And then you wrote me and said, I'm getting, maybe you told me, but you said, I'm with my husband, I really want to work on that relationship. Do you remember you telling me just kind of about your husband?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, you were kind of in love with the Temple family, and they were kind of in love with you. Because you'd already been, like you said, coming and going and just seeing what was happening. Do you agree with that? And you're checking it out with Anana, coming and visiting and seeing what was happening. Was it Anana that brought you in?
No, it was, yes.
So, after you decided to not practice, Temple was supportive of you creating any type of program, that any type of modality or offering that you might want to offer. Temple supported people in offering any kind of modality, whether it had sex in it or not. Is that correct?
Yes.
So there were people who wanted to be in the temple, and it wasn't a match to whole body healing, correct?
Correct.
And so then we would encourage them to design their own ceremony, and we would offer that as well.
Correct.
And so part of that was to get the idea that the seekers
Correct.
or they might take a life coaching from Aphrodite, and they just would talk and do life coaching.
Correct.
So we offer many, many things, and people could design their own ceremony. Do you agree?
Yes.
So the state brought up the phones again. Isn't it true that there were multiple practitioners, phones leading in, advertising that phone number leading to one person answering?
Yes.
Practitioners with that one phone number.
Yes.
And also, because we had that phone number for a couple of years before we got to School of One, many people that had saved our number would still call that number for the School of One because they didn't have a new one. Is that also true?
Yes.
Were there people living in a building that might have been so poor they didn't even have a cell phone and they were giving out the temple's phone because that was their only phone number to like look for a job or hear from their sister?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the phone was used for a lot of different ways.
Yes.
And that was true even after we got the School of One.
Yes.
And let's say again, isn't it true that a seeker could easily put, or anyone could put our phone number in the internet and it would bring up the Phoenix God's Temple website just by putting in our phone number?
I believe so. Thank you.
There were a lot of people at various stages on your path. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
And there were people who might have been very strong and giving healers who then might hit a rough patch in their life and suddenly they need help. Instead of giving, now they're at the temple needing help. Is that true?
Yes.
And that happened to you, where you were giving and giving and giving, and then something happened, and you didn't know when to go towards it. That with your death and your father, I know not knowing, but only a few people said something. I mean, I know. We testified just recently here that I was wanting to grow the temple to get more money. Isn't it true that we had so many programs that were waiting for funding that it wasn't like I was going to keep the money. We were going to fund the media wing. Do you remember getting our teachings online? There was that new wing upstairs. Do you remember about that?
Yes.
Okay, so we wanted to get our teachings out to the world for free over the internet, and then some of them might be paid classes. Do you remember that?
I wasn't part of those conversations.
But isn't it true that the temple treated a woman asking for healing differently than you treated a man asking for healing? Do you agree?
What do you mean?
Well, for example, if a woman called up and said she wanted to receive a whole body healing, she was automatically scheduled for 90 minutes for the requested offering of an hour.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
And that was just to honor the fact that women's bodies are just lower in their energy. They're just more, they're grounding, they need faith. You remember talking about that?
Yes.
And then do you recall that women could ask for a healing and if they didn't have, they said something like, I don't have any money, but I really need healing. Do you recall that some of our people would flow and give those healings from their heart?
I believe so.
Giving healing in the building.
Yes.
Where a healer would take another person, go in a chamber, use that chamber,
Yes.
and Temple didn't ask
Yes.
So we did actually, as a temple, we might have failed at giving people that one-on-one that they needed, but there were lots of group opportunities to be healed. Do you agree?
Yes.
And we really, the temple was really good at sharing the space. Like we encouraged people to use all this empty space. Do you agree?
Yes.
Like if they wanted to teach, we didn't ask them for rent. They could give this much if they wanted to, but we really wanted teachers to teach. Do you remember that?
I don't know about the teaching part, Tracy.
So it could be also true that my desire to get more money and grow the temple was to take the pressure off everyone. That would be one reason I might be looking to get more financial support, was to take the pressure off Janet and you and everyone. There was a lot of financial pressure.
It was.
And so there were a number of people who had ministries at the temple, and they were no longer getting the amount of money that they were told they would receive. Is that true?
Yes.
So people were coming to work at the temple and going home with nothing that day, or half the amount of money they might have been said, this is what your ministry is, $100 a shift. You might go home with 70 that day. Did that happen?
Well, yes, until we go home with no money because we didn't have the money at all.
Right. And the temple would say, we'd like to get this back to you, we hope we can, but people just kept coming to work even when we couldn't pay them.
Right.
So the shift that you did was considered about half the day, because the temple, you started at 7:30 or 8, and the temple's phones were answered till almost 10 o'clock at night.
Yes.
Is that right?
Mhm.
So there were 2 shifts, really.
Yes.
And Sylvia, when she did the weekends, she would do all day Saturday and all day Sunday. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Both shifts.
Yes.
Okay. So she was getting $100 a shift, but she was doing on Saturday and Sunday. Does that sound right? She was doing the morning and the evening phone.
Right.
And if she came in midday on Friday, then that was divided, and people who covered part of Friday would keep that money, and she would get 100 if she did half the day. Is that correct? We divided it out
No, she still kept the 200.
on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have to. So, and you agree though that Sylvia, in addition to answering phones, also did the scheduling of teachers until Wayne and Annika came around. She scheduled all the out-of-town guests. Do you remember that?
I believe I wasn't there on the weekends.
You were part of it. So let's go to that. So your ministry was really Monday through Friday, 7:30 in the morning till about 4 in the afternoon.
Right.
So, but the temple was open 12, 13, 14 hours a day. So you were there about 30 to 40% of the total time the temple was open.
Correct.
And so there was a whole lot of stuff happening, evenings, weekends, at the school that you really didn't know anything about.
Correct.
Because it wasn't your job to pay attention to that.
Right.
So your primary job description was to schedule seekers, schedule practitioners. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
And then your other primary duty was to make sure that they were able to be the right person to go in and heal. Did you ever tell someone to go home that they shouldn't be in temple today because of how they were presenting?
No.
You never said that to anyone.
Mm-mm.
Going to the filtering. So if someone said,
Objection outside the scope.
Well, finish your question.
it's possible that Janet or I did refer people to outside agencies, but you just don't know about that.
No.
You stated that there was no profit, no profit, no profit. What you were really saying is, we never saw the end of our bills. We never got really level.
Right. Correct.
And so we owe the
Yes.
And the staff, the support ministries, laundry, phones, administrative, teaching, they were going unpaid or way less money.
Yes.
And that went on for most of 2011.
Correct.
Do you remember 2009 that we also were not really making it financially when we first got to Temple?
Right. Correct.
We were still just growing. We were like a little practice.
Yes.
Did you see the temple go from 2 or 3 transformation chambers to 9 or 10 transformation chambers in about a year and a half? We grew that much while you were in the building. Do you remember that?
I think they have more than 3 when I started there. They have more than 3 rooms when I started there.
When you started, there was 3.
There were more.
Okay, do you recall? I mean, but it did grow. Like we took over the whole building. In
Yes.
the space of about 18 months.
Yes.
We were renting a portion, and we just kept growing.
Yes.
And the growing had to do with accommodating the women in a way that made them happy, because they all wanted different kinds of decorations and feelings in their rooms. Isn't it true that the practitioners wanted their own room?
Yes.
So having more rooms didn't necessarily bring in more money, but it did make the practitioners happy.
Yes.
Ms. Elise, how much more do you have?
I think I'm actually done. So just my last thing was, you said that you enjoy being around the ancient practices being brought to life, and you stayed there because you had hope that everyone there could find the path to healing.
Correct.
So even if the temple wasn't accomplishing results, lasting results in your opinion, you would agree that everyone there was looking for healing, and as a community we were attempting to provide that for each other.
Correct.
And we were attempting to provide healing education to the city of Phoenix
Correct.
and to the state of Arizona.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Marcella. Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take the noon recess. Please return at 1:30. We may be 5 or 10 minutes late starting. We have a matter from the morning calendar coming back at 1:15. So, but we will try to start as quickly after 1:30 as we can. Please remember the admonition. You may step down. You are excused.
I were on Dateline the other night.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
He just doesn't go away.
Absolutely did not allow him.
After 2 long trials. What were you on Dateline for?
We did a trial of Judge Grant. It's funny, Judge Granville walked in here. I thought, oh, there's the 3 of us. Dateline filmed this is very good. And
You can try it. It's a good thing. Pull up.
Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and all counsel. The state may call its next witness.
Your Honor, at this time, the state calls Jerry Craven to the stand.
Ms. Craven, please come forward, right up here.
State your name. Janet. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Right around here, please, and have a seat. You may proceed.
Ms. Craven, can I get you to state your full name for the jury and spell your last name?
Janet Craven, C-R-A-V-E-N.
Okay. Should I get you to start out by explaining a little bit to the jury how it is you met Tracy Hurst?
I met her, at the very beginning. I was in a meetup group, and two of the temple practitioners were at the meetup group, and they had mentioned that they needed somebody to answer the phones at the temple, and so I went to the temple, and that's where I met Tracy.
So you said two of the practitioners were at this meetup group. Was either of those?
No,
They indicated they needed someone to answer phones. That sounded like something you were willing to do. And then you went to the temple and met the That's not right?
Yes.
And was that in approximately July of 2008?
yes,
You started working at the Phoenix Goddess Temple at that time period. Is that what you started out doing, just answering phones?
yes.
Where was the Phoenix Goddess Temple located?
It was at 24th Street and Indian School, approximately.
And was it a house or a business?
It was a little, like, commercial building.
Before we talk more about that, I want to ask you just a little bit about kind of what you did prior to starting your Phoenix Goddess Temple. Were you employed at the time when you went to this meetup?
No.
Previous employment that you had?
Management and administrative.
Did you have any experience at that time in healing modalities of any kind?
No.
So this was kind of a new thing for you, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Do you recall about how long you worked for the Phoenix Goddess Temple operated out of that location?
It was pretty brief. I'm thinking less than 6 months. Yeah.
What is your understanding in terms of why the Goddess Temple left that location?
It was very small and very dark, and there was like some water damage, and it wasn't a very pretty place.
Where did you move that?
Over to Scottsdale, 64th and Camelback, 64th Street.
Was that a business or a residence?
That was a residence.
Do you recall about how long the Goddess Temple was at that particular location?
It was right about a year.
About a year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
At some point or at the end of that year, the Goddess Temple moved again to a different location?
Yes.
What was your understanding in terms of why they left that location?
We had requested to be zoned as a church, and the square footage of the property was just a little bit too small, and they wouldn't grant us the zoning.
Zoning issue.
Yeah.
Were you aware of whether there were any complaints from neighbors about the business?
There were a couple, yeah.
Where did you, the Goddess Temple move at that point?
Over to Shea, and I think it was 59th Street, 60th Street.
Somewhere in that area?
Yeah.
Was
that have been a business or a residence?
That was a residence.
At the city of Phoenix? That's how.
I don't remember. There's part of me that thinks it was both.
How long were you, again, by you at that particular location?
I think that was like about 4 months, something, I think it was less than 6 months.
What the reason was in terms of why you were there for such a short period?
That one had a HOA that didn't allow business to be operated inside the HOA.
Because this particular residence was being operated kind of somewhat like a business, did not meet the HOA requirements, therefore had to move.
Yeah, and they didn't tell us before we moved in that they had an HOA rules.
Where did you move at that point?
It was a little home. Oh, I don't remember the address. It was off of Lincoln and near like between Camelback and Lincoln on 44th Street.
You said it was a home.
Yes.
How long did you guys operate out of that?
We were there about 1 month. Because it was a tiny little home. We were looking for a proper temple, but we needed to be out of the Shea location, so it was kind of just a little interim. Yes,
At that point, you guys temple then moved into the learner business that we kind of talking about during this trial.
yes.
Did the Goddess Temple operate at, we talked about all these different locations they were at, did it operate kind of the same way in all these locations in terms of what was happening inside?
Yes.
Over this period of time, when you first started in July of 2008, moving all the way up to when you moved into the last location, did your role change at all in terms of what you think of these Goddess Temples?
I guess over the progression, I took on more administrative type duties rather than just answering the phone.
So you started out just answering phones. Over time, you started getting kind of more responsibilities. Is that fair?
Yes.
Do you recall what month and year you guys moved into the last location? The 24th Thomas location.
April, I think it was 2010.
The rest of my questioning, Ms. Craven, is going to be kind of focused on that last location. So kind of how things operated from April 2010 through September of 2011. Fair?
Yeah.
What was your role specifically during that period of time? What were your duties?
I answered the phones and I did administrative office keeping, financial office keeping.
Who was the primary person during that time period that was responsible for the financial upkeep of the facility? Right that way. Who was responsible for keeping track of the finances?
Well, ultimately, Tracy was responsible for everything. I guess it would have been me as far as keeping records.
Tracy, was she basically the head person of the Goddess Temple?
Yes.
In terms of policies, protocols, how things operated, was that her responsibility?
Yes.
Did you have any involvement in setting policies or setting procedures for how things were done?
I would like maybe make recommendations or, request conversations to, maybe correct some issues, or if I saw something, in the record keeping or something, I would make requests or I could make recommendations to Tracy.
And sometimes she might follow that, sometimes she'd say no.
Yes, correct.
In terms of the finances, you were the person who maintained the records. Would that be fair?
Primarily.
You said you answered phones, you did finances. Were you also in charge of paying the bills?
Quite a bit, yeah.
Were you responsible for scheduling the sessions that occurred at the Phoenix Gospel? Or at least one of the people responsible for that?
Yeah, when I was on the phone duty.
What about people, female or male, would call up and have interest in working at the Phoenix Gospel? Did you have any responsibility in meeting with those people to see if they were a right fit?
Not typically, no.
Who typically?
Tracy.
Were there circumstances where she did not do that and you did instead?
There was a couple of times where somebody would walk in and sit down and talk to me, and I would do my best to have a conversation with them about the Phoenix Goddess Temple, and we had a questionnaire for them to fill out.
Would that be a circumstance where maybe Tracy was not at the temple?
Yeah. They could fill out the questionnaire and give that to Tracy.
We heard earlier, Mr. David, from a detective who testified that she met with you pretending to be somebody who was interested in working as a practitioner. So would it be fair to say that you sometimes did have those meetings?
Was not often. It was not often.
Did you have the authority at the Phoenix Goddess Temple in the situations when you would meet with somebody to say, yes, this person is good, they get to work there? Or did that still have to be signed off by the city?
That still had to be signed off by Tracy, yes.
What was your title?
At the end, I was Temple Mother.
What does that mean? Why did you get that?
Because, really primarily because I'm very much a mama type.
You talked about some of the roles that you had. Did you yourself ever conduct sessions?
No,
Say that again.
no. I was not a practitioner.
Did you ever have any interest in being a practitioner?
No.
Any reason why you had no interest in doing
It wasn't my calling. My calling was more in the organizational side of things.
the administrative side?
Yeah.
We've heard testimony from, I believe, a couple of individuals who worked at the Phoenix Goddess Temple that if Tracy wasn't there, that you were kind of the person that was in charge.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
What was your schedule like toward the end? What days and hours would you say?
Towards the end, it was like 9, I think it was 9:30 till about 4 towards the end.
9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m.?
Yeah.
What do you call it, days of the week you were working?
I was working 3 or 4 days at the end. Well, it varied. It varied.
Let's assume that Miss Elise not at the temple, she's somewhere else. One of the days you're not scheduled to work. Who's in charge of that?
I'm trying to remember who was around at Temple at that point. Sylvia was around. So,
Wait,
yeah. So if Sylvia was there, that would be her.
was that Tracy's daughter?
Yeah.
Let's go back and talk a little bit more about the hiring process. You may not have referred to it as hiring, but you know what I'm talking about when I say that.
Oh, yes.
During the period of time that you worked at the Phoenix Goddess Temple, did you ever experience or recall a situation where a female came in interested in working at the Goddess Temple, and either you or Tracy said, sorry, we're just not fit? You can't work here. You recall that ever happened?
Not immediately, no.
So, as far as you can recall, every person that walked into the Goddess Temple and had an interest in working there, they essentially were hired.
I'm looking to see if that's actually true. I can't say hired in that respect because there was training to go through and there were spiritual trainings and teachings to go through. So I could say that everybody was given an opportunity to go through the trainings. And from there, if they were fit or not fit.
Were there some females who started going through the training process, and then somebody had to go to them and say, sorry, you gotta go, this is not the place for you?
Nothing comes to mind. I can't recall. It may have, I don't remember.
So, would it be fair to say, Ms. Craven, that a female or a male practitioner wanted to work there, regardless of their background, regardless of why they said they wanted to work there, they at least got the opportunity to start going through the training and go through the process?
Yes.
And you don't recall any instances where even then, somebody was told, sorry, you don't really fit.
I'm just not recalling. There's nothing popping up. I'm trying to recall if there was a particular one I could think of, but
What paperwork, if any, was given to the individuals who were interested in working with Goddess Temple? And what I mean by that is, if I go apply for a new job and I get hired, typically there's paperwork I got to fill out, I got to sign, I got to review. To your recollection, what kind of paperwork was given?
well, we just had a practitioner handbook that had like protocol of the temple and, you know, like where we would like them to park to, you know, leave freed up parking in front of the temple, dress codes, things like that.
Other than the
Room
information
practices.
within the handbook, anything else that you can recall?
You know, prior to their coming to temple, there was a questionnaire for them to fill out to, so that they could see if they were a fit with who we were.
Okay. So let me make sure I understand you correctly. So before the individual would even get to the temple, or maybe as soon as they got there, they were given a questionnaire to fill out. Does that sound right?
Right.
And was that more intended for them to see whether they still wanted to work with the Goddess Temple based on the questions?
Yes.
So there was never a situation where a person would put an answer and you'd say, oh, sorry, you can't work.
No.
Yes.
Craven, I'm showing you what's been admitted as Exhibit 61.002. You recognize that?
Yes, the practitioner handbook.
And does that say something specific on the front cover?
Janet's master copy.
Was that a copy that you kept with you at the Goddess Temple?
In the office, yeah.
And this was given to the females who came to work there, correct?
Or males. Yes. Well, I would have, as far as the typing and putting it together, I would have done the typing.
Who came up with the information in terms of what to put into the
Yeah, that would have been Tracy.
lines that are in this document.
Tracy with them.
We're going to talk a little bit more about this later, Ms. Craven. Do you recognize this document being something that was part of that handbook?
I believe so, yeah.
Do you recall what the purpose of this was?
Well, specifically what it says. If Temple or a practitioner made a mistake that resulted in an upset for a seeker, we would do something to make it right for them.
Specifically, you would give them a $50 discount off their next session. Is that basically what it says?
Yeah, well, it says generally would be $50 off, yeah. We would offer, you know, depending on the seeker, what they would accept as a apology.
It says generally, does that mean sometimes it might be less or more than $50?
Or it might not be money off, you know. Like I said, it's depending on the seeker and what they would be satisfied with.
We're going to talk a little bit later about the financial part of the sessions that have been referred to as a donation. Can you explain, Ms. Craven, if a person isn't required to leave money at the end of the session, it's up to them and there's no requirement that they do it, what's the benefit of getting $50 off?
Because it was extremely rare that somebody didn't leave a donation. They didn't have to begin with, so, you know, in that sense that, you know.
Was it generally a benefit because most of the people who came in and did sessions left the money at the end?
Yes.
This is something we'll be talking about a little bit more. Again, this is from the same exhibit, the practitioner handbook. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
And you agree it's titled Temple Practitioner Profile?
Yes.
Was this something that would be filled out
Yes.
by who?
By the practitioner.
And after they filled out this document, where would that go?
It would go in a profile book in the office.
And is that a book that you or whoever's working as the gatekeeper would have access to?
Yes.
Again, is this something that, to your belief, Tracy came up with?
Yes.
I want to point your attention to a couple of things. There is a section that says yoni. What did yoni mean?
Yoni was the vaginal area in the woman.
And it looks like there's three options that say clean shaven, rude, and natural.
Yes.
Why was that something that the Phoenix Valley Temple?
Seekers would actually ask when they would call. That for whatever reason that meant something to them.
And we're going to talk more about your role, but you actually answered a lot of the phone calls when seekers would call up about making appointments, correct?
Yes.
Was it common for a seeker to call up and say, I would really like a female goddess who is clean shaven?
I don't know about common, but they definitely did get asked, yes.
And for men only, is this for male practitioners?
Yes.
Lingam size, we're talking about penis size?
Yes.
Were there female that called the temple and wanted this information?
I actually never got asked that.
There's a section on mutuality, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Towards the bottom of this, there's a section, first of all, it says, we'll share Shakti, but what is Shakti?
That's an energetic, it could be like an energetic orgasm. It's a full energetic, that's my understanding. It's a full energetic sharing.
Underneath that, there's three kind of questions that you want to put in where the practitioner can circle yes or no. Toy play with seeker, toy play with practitioner, and strap on. What is your understanding the practitioners were being asked for this question?
Whether they allowed toy play in their session. That would be any type of erotic toys. Maybe.
Were there males who would call the temple and ask questions about whether that was something that could happen inside of the sessions?
I actually don't recall ever getting questioned about that.
And strap on again, we're talking about a sexual device at that point.
Yes.
And that's something that Miss Elisa apparently felt she needed to know whether the females who were going to work there were willing to do that.
Well, if they were or not.
Here's the next page of that same document. I just have a question. I don't know the answer to this. What is God's question?
I'm not sure myself. I never got asked. I would assume that that's God is playing together. God is wrestling together. That one never came up.
Going back just very briefly to hiring and then necessary the firing, which I think you indicated didn't really happen, but would Tracy be the one who made those decisions?
Yes.
Did you have the authority to tell somebody they couldn't work
No.
anymore? You indicated that you were in charge of kind of the finances and creating the financial documents.
I kept track, yeah.
During the period of time that you worked there, how did the Phoenix Goddess Temple make money? Where did the money come from?
Generally from the practitioner tithes.
And when you say practitioner tithes, is that money that they would give to the temple that they made in the sessions?
Yes.
At some point during the period of time that you worked there, Ms. Craven, did you become aware that some or many of the practitioners are engaging in sexual conduct during the session?
Yes.
How you became aware of that or when?
I don't know about the when, but just through conversation. That somebody would say.
You say conversation, is that with the practitioners?
Yeah. Yes.
Would some of the practitioners talk about things that happen in the sessions?
Yes, from time to time, yes.
Let's talk about kind of your role at the temple in answering the phone. Fair to say that a lot of the phone calls that would come in were from seekers who wanted to schedule a session.
Yes.
And were you the person who always answered the phones? How did that work? How was it determined who answered the phone?
Whoever was designated gatekeeper at the time would be the person to answer the phone. So if I was the designated gatekeeper, I would answer the phone.
During the period of time that you worked there, other than yourself, who were the other gatekeepers?
Well, Tracy, of course, Gabby, there were a couple of other practitioners that acted as gatekeeper from time to time. I just don't remember specifically at the moment who it was. Primarily, it would be me and Tracy and Gabby and Sylvia when she was there.
Talking just about the phone calls that would come in from potential seekers, you receive any sort of training in terms of what to say or what not to say to these individuals?
Yes,
Who did you receive that training from?
Tracy.
Can you recall what specifically you were trained to do in terms of those conversations? Either what to do or what not to do?
Well, very specifically, we would never offer any type of guarantee that any particular thing would happen in a session outside of a very relaxing, amazing type of massage type. We would say that they would receive the Abhyanga, am I remembering that right? Abhyanga ritual, which was long. It was a type of massage that was very long stroke and very relaxing. And beyond that, there was no guarantee of anything.
That was kind of a standard phrase you would tell males, there's no guarantee of anything. Is there a difference in the conversation between a male who would call up and has never been there before versus a male who would call up and has been there multiple times and just wants to schedule a session?
Yes.
If a male calls up and has been to the temple multiple times before, how typically does that conversation go?
Well, typically they would call up and say, I would like to schedule an hour with a specific person on a specific day. And it's great, and your name and phone number, and that would be recorded.
That would be it.
And that would be typically it.
If that person has been to the temple before and kind of knows how things work, is that fair to say? Yes. Let's talk about males, or I guess potentially females. First of all, most of the people who came to the temple males
Yes.
who had never been there before. Were those conversations usually a little bit more involved?
Yes.
Was it common for them to have questions about what the goddess temple was and what really was going to happen in these sessions?
Yes.
First of all, when we talk about that, what information would you get from them if they did in fact what they said?
Just their name and phone number. And then, of course, their time.
We've heard a little bit about the fact that some of the males who went there didn't have to give a real name. What about when they booked the session? Did you tell them right at that point, you can give me a fake name, it doesn't matter if you're called?
Yes.
You told them they could give a fake name.
Yes.
You indicated that you would give a phone number for them. What was the purpose of that?
It would be to call them if there was an issue that came up, if their practitioner didn't come in that day, if there was some kind of scheduling, we could call and reschedule.
And was there times when you would try to call the sisters?
Yes.
What did you experience when you did that?
Quite often it wouldn't be a real phone number. I would get a disconnected number or something to that effect.
Do you recall earlier today indicating that almost 99.9% of the time it was a fake number?
I don't know if that was the percentage, but yes, most of the time, more often than not, for sure. That was my experience.
What would you tell a male who's calling up, never been there before, and says, I want to book a session, how much money should I bring, or how much is this going to cost?
Well, we would mention the recommended donation.
Let me first ask this. Did you get those questions from
Yes.
And you would then tell them what the recommended donation was?
Yes.
And you would give them whatever that specific number is.
Yes.
Correct. Were you give at that point in time the secret information about not talking about money during the session?
Yes.
Was that specifically something you were trained to tell them?
Yes.
Do you know why you would tell them?
Because the chambers were a sacred room and there was no discussion of money.
Just so it's kind of clear, we're kind of early on here. Why were they? What made them sacred?
Every room was very meticulously attended to and blessed, and it would be specifically decorated, the four corners, the goddesses. Each chamber had a specific goddess reference. And they were all blessed and sanctified in that goddess name. And it was all sacred energy.
Your understanding, because each of these rooms had been blessed and kind of had a separate goddess theme to them, that was a reason you could not talk about money or mention money inside of the room.
Well, you wouldn't mention money inside of the room, and it was discussed outside of chamber. I feel like there's something more you're asking me.
I wasn't sure if you were done. What was discussed outside of chamber?
Well, any money was discussed outside of chamber through the gatekeeper during the scheduling of the session, and we specifically told them that there's no discussion of money inside the chambers with the goddesses.
Was it ever your understanding, based on something that was told to you or for whatever reason, that one of the reasons you were instructed to tell them not to talk about money was because it would create a legal issue if they did?
Yes,
That,
it would be a legal issue.
that was maybe part of the issue.
Yes.
That's something you touched on in terms of practitioner being a gatekeeper. If the speaker asks what the session entailed, what would you tell us? I'm a brand new person, I've never been there before, and I say, Ms. Craven, I want to do a session with a goddess. What is going to happen inside? What is it going to entail? What would you call it?
Well, kind of what I started to say earlier, it would start with the Abhyanga. I think I'm saying that right. It's been a long time. The